Right now, we want to turn to an Eyewitness News exclusive. Tonight, the Catholic Church is still recovering from a worldwide sex abuse scandal, which has shaken the faith of thousands of survivors.
And in the Diocese of Norwich, after decades of alleged abuse and cover-ups, one of those survivors is waging a one-man protest against what he calls the Church's lack of accountability. Here's Channel 3's Roger Suzanen.
Behind me, a beautiful, meticulously maintained brick parish house. This is home to Diocese of Norwich Bishop Michael Cody, who has repeatedly refused to meet with a once devout but now severely damaged follower.
I am the enemy of the church. I speak ill of the church from outside. I don't know how that happened. I'm a good Catholic.
It's 4 o'clock outside St. Patrick's Cathedral in Norwich. Tim McGuire is back.
I think my conscience got to me.
The 60-year-old McGuire is protesting what he calls the diocese's arrogantly dismissive attitude toward the children of God who lost their innocence to pedophile priests. He's walking for friends he's known and lost, people he's never met, and a little boy from Noank.
It got worse every time. I mean, the second meeting, I had to fondle him. The third meeting, he had penetrated me. He raped my soul. Where do you have left to go?
It has taken McGuire nearly 50 years to come to grips with his pain and shame. He says it began at age 8 in 1967 as an altar boy in a Noank church. The repeated sexual molestation and rape by Father James Curry.
After a couple of times, it was a hand wave and a nod. He didn't have to say anything. I was expected to see him after church.
Curry died in 1986, but his name lives on, appearing on a list published by the Diocese of Norwich this year of 43 diocesan priests credibly accused of sexually abusing children. McGuire says Curry's abuse cost him his self-esteem and his faith.
There's nowhere left to go. He took God away from you. He took your religion, took your innocence. What's left?
Curry says for over a decade, Bishop Michael Cody and diocesan officials have refused to meet with him, not even a phone call.
Been too long. Somebody owes me an explanation and or an apology and or some justice, some accountability.
But here in Connecticut, church accountability can be hard to come by. Experts say our state has some of the nation's weakest laws regarding church-related child sexual abuse. They cite 2 reasons. The state's attorney is unable to even issue a subpoena to church officials prior to an arrest. And while Connecticut's newly revised statute of limitations bill gives survivors 3 more years until age 51 to file a civil lawsuit against the church, the bill fails to allow for an added window for victims older than 51. When Tim McGuire came forward 12 years ago, he learned he missed the cutoff date by 3 weeks.
You're come at with resources beyond your comprehension. You're treated as if this is an all-out assault on the church.
Unless we create a better empowerment system for the victims, we're just going to continue to have children sexually abused.
University of Pennsylvania professor Marcy Hamilton, who testified along with McGuire at the state capitol about statute of limitations reform, is considered the nation's leading expert on child sexual abuse and the reluctance of victims to speak out, even decades later. She calls Connecticut's law a disgrace.
The situation in Connecticut is that they're falling farther and farther behind. So while at one point their statute of limitations was not terrible, on a daily basis it's getting worse.
Tim McGuire still believes in God, but refuses to step inside a church.
This is my congregation out here.
He continues his one-man protests at Diocese of Norwich churches. But he's lost faith that Bishop Michael Cody will ever break his silence. Cody has steadfastly refused to turn over secret church files on sex abuse claims to law enforcement.
And as long as they're hiding secrets, they are being poisoned by this problem just as much as society is.
The bishop needs to own up to his inaction and his mistreatment of victims at the hands of priests he oversaw.
It's getting late outside St. Patrick's Cathedral. Tim McGuire is calling it a day. But he will continue to return to other diocese churches over and over as long as it takes to find some form of accountability and justice.
What's the difference whether I pace in my living room or out here? I think the difference is I can spread a message here. I can't in my living room.
Over the past several weeks, we've made numerous requests to Bishop Cody for comment on Tim McGuire's case and those of other sexual abuse victims, but the bishop has refused to comment, calling the allegations matters of a personal nature. Reporting in Norwich, I'm Roger Suzanin, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.